Let's get ready to start another episode of Miami Cop Talk. Welcome to another episode of Miami Cop Talk. I'm Raul. With me is my partner, Robert Asencio. We have a real special guest for you today. And I'm going to let Robert, my partner and co-host here, introduce our guest.
My honor and pleasure to introduce Fernando Bosch. He used to be with the city of Miami. You probably know him. For those of you that watched crime stories on cable, the First 48, homicide detective, a friend, a brother, served with us while we were on active duty, right? Active police service. But somebody we wanted to have here on the show to speak to you about his experiences as a sexual battery detective. Fernando, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here with you guys. I'm honored to be here.
A lot of great stories that you have and you can share with us. But there's one in particular that I want you to, a case that you worked on, the Shenandoah Rapist. That was one that hit home here in Miami. If you can give us some details as much as you can, not to get into anything inappropriate, but if you want to share first your a background on how you came up the ranks. I think you're working now for the city of South Miami Police.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I started in 1987 in the city of Miami. I was a patrol officer for 10 years. I then moved into sexual battery, child abuse unit. And after being there 2 years, I was asked to, by back then my assistant chief, John Brooks, to go to homicide. I told him I really wanted to learn a little bit more before I moved on to homicide, because homicide is homicide. I was in sexual battery from 1998 to 2003. I believe it was in 2000 when the Shenandoah Rapist investigation began. I don't think the city of Miami ever had a case of that magnitude. It was a very demanding case. Back then, we had the record for the most tips to come in through Crime Stoppers. Overall, it was an amazing experience. It was very hard, but it was an excellent experience.
The Shenandoah is in the city of Miami, Little Havana area, right? 14th Avenue, 14th Street, and roughly 14th Avenue is where the Shenandoah Park is, right?
14th Street and
14th Avenue to 22nd.
22nd Avenue, around there.
That was early 2000. For those people that remember, talk to us about that case, man, and what did that subject do? What was he accused of?
This individual was Honduran national, and he raped an 11-year-old girl and other ages in between, all the way to an 81-year-old a lady.
What a sick bastard, man.
Oh, tell me about it. The 81-year-old lady had Alzheimer's, and he raped her. After he left, she took a shower and everything. And when her daughter got home and they were sitting having dinner, I guess it popped into her head, and she said, "Oh, by the way, there was a guy here, and he had sex with me." And unfortunately, there was no DNA because she had taken a shower and everything. But at the end of the day, we were able to get him to confess to that crime also. But like I said, from 11-year-old girl to an 81-year-old lady, and that's what made it extremely difficult. Because normally, serial rapists target a certain age, certain look, but this guy was like all over the place.
Wow. How many victims in total this individual raped?
That we know of during that time, and that I think there was one that was not reported, but we were able to hit him with, or we were able to put 10 cases on him.
Wow. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, he was at TGK, Turner Guilford Night, and he escaped from there.
He did. I remember I was working an extra detail one night, and I got a phone call. And mind you, this was an investigation that from the beginning, when we found out that we had, I believe it was 3 DNA hits on this guy. Mm-hmm. We didn't know who he was, but we had 3 victims with the same DNA. We said, okay, we got a problem here. We got a serial rapist. And we began working it. We were working it day and night, around the clock. I remember going home, getting 4 hours sleep, coming back to work. For months, we were working it. And when I got the phone call that the guy had just escaped, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Man,
Yeah. It wasn't a,
gut punch.
yes.
So, but for those of you that want to know more, we're gonna put Miami Manhunt, right?
Miami Manhunt. Right.
We're gonna put it on the below the show so people have a reference. But I'd like you guys to take a look at and watch the episode, right? It's an hour long, a little over an hour. But one thing that got me, man, was how you guys were feeling going through the case, right? The frustration, the countless hours that you guys put into this. Look, for those of you that want an insight into police work, that documentary provides you an insight as to what the real heroes behind the badge do. This guy and his team spent hours away from their families trying to capture somebody that was out there preying on our community. Man, coming back to you, I remember in the video how the sense of relief that you guys had, the high-fiving when the DNA came back, that you finally confirmed that this is your target, right? This is your subject. You take him out of the station. You take him down to TGK. You guys were so, good to this guy. He was so remorseful. And then he goes to the jail, and then you guys capture him again. And what was the demeanor after that? You guys captured him.
Well,
remember?
Well, when I didn't capture him the second time. Miami-Dade did. Okay. But during the interview, you want to get the guy to tell you what he did, basically to confess. You want to treat him the right way. We fed the guy while we were waiting for his DNA. We treated him good because at the end of the day, we wanted to get, his confession. We got his confession, and subsequent to the confession, we took him out on location. I told him, listen, can you go out and show us where you did these things? And he agreed, and he jumped in a van. He was being videotaped. Went to every location and pointed out all the scenes where he committed the rapes. And my daughter, who was back then like 11 or 12 years old, I remember had a dream that I went to Publix and the serial rapist was there. And to me, that was like, now I even wanted to work even harder to catch this guy.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I know from the time of that incident that it was on the news. It was a high alert throughout our community. Crime Stoppers were getting tips. You can speak to that a little bit more. But I want to shift into the professionalism. You're a true professional. You're still in law enforcement, and it's a calling. It's a profession. It's a calling. Some people, do their time, they leave, whatever. But you're committed to the professional law enforcement, and the fact that it's a profession because you just mentioned your daughter was the age of one of the victims, and I have 3 daughters, and it takes every fiber in your being to be professional. If we were in a third world nation, that guy would have had immediate justice, especially
justice.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
exactly. So speak to the composure, the professionalism, your training. Speak to that, and and to some of the dynamics of how that case materialized from the tips, and again, I think the community, for anyone that sees Miami Manhunt, for anyone that can remember the time, that was a scary moment in the Miami area, knowing that there was somebody out there indiscriminately raping people from 11 to 81.
Absolutely. So when we got to like 3 DNA hits on the case, Lieutenant Alfaro, who was my lieutenant in sexual battery back then, formed a task force. And every day the task force kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I tell you that we had every municipality, we had DEA, we had airplanes, we had helicopters. I mean, it was incredible. We had a war room where we would meet and discuss different things about, how to catch this guy. All the leads that would come in would get processed. They would get assigned to different detectives, and eventually either myself or one of the guys senior guys would look at the outcome of the tip, make sure that it was investigated correctly, or if there was any other questions or anything like that. And like I said, we had the most tips from Crime Stoppage to come in, and it was nonstop. Day and night, day and night. We had civilian personnel helping us out with the tips, receiving the tips, categorizing them, getting them assigned. The supervisor would assign them, and to me, it was the most amazing case that I've ever worked.
There's something really to point out here. This guy was a non-traditional rapist, right? Can you tell us or share a little bit about his guy's MO and how he preyed or how he selected his people? Did you guys ever figure out how he identified or went after his victims?
Did he have a family?
His family was from Honduras. He was from Honduras. Going back to your question was the way that he did it was he would like the little girl. He probably saw her coming from school, follow her to her house, and knocked on the door. Told the little girl that he was lost and that he wanted some water because he was thirsty. He had been walking for hours, whatever. And when the girl turned around to give him a glass of water, he pushed himself into the house. I'm not going to get into details. I don't even want to remember. And what he did to her is unhumane. So, and he did this on and on with the majority of the victims. Like the first victim was a 21-year-old woman, and he cased her. She was coming home from work a couple of days, whatever, until he decided to go ahead and do it.
Was he married? Did he have kids or anything like that?
So here in Miami, he had two girlfriends. One in Little Havana and one down south, I believe, somewhere in Correa or somewhere down there. And he did have family in Honduras. After the case, after the arrest was made, we wanted to learn a little bit about his background, what could have caused this. He traveled to Honduras, which is something that I don't think has ever been done before in a case in the city of Miami, and I don't think has been done since. What we learned was that this guy was a church-going guy, played the guitar and sang in church. We learned that he came here. He worked on a cruise ship, and when the cruise ship got to Miami, he stayed here. He was deported, and then came back into the country legally. Or was here legally?
Wow. Yeah. And the reason why I brought up is, and I asked you if you remember how the guy's demeanor changed from when he was arrested originally the first time to when he was arrested the second time, was because it's very well documented that this guy was like he's a sociopath, right? He was very remorseful, very meek, very apologetic. It's not me, crying, going to jail. He escapes. Then when they capture him again, guy's personality, his whole physical demeanor had changed. He was jovial. He was actually proud of this whole manhunt that was behind him. Man, what a sick individual. Coming up on the 20th anniversary of that arrest, we encourage everyone to watch this show. You can find us at MiamiCopTalk.com, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or you can just come to Miami Community Newspapers and you'll find us.
You have been listening to Miami Cop Talk. We hope you have enjoyed this episode, and visit us at MiamiCopTalk.com to get the latest on all our broadcasts. We want to thank our partners and sponsors that have made Miami Cop Talk possible. And on behalf of Robert Asencio and Raul Correa, we want to thank you for listening to Miami Cop Talk. Stay connected and visit us at MiamiCopTalk.com.